Obviously, he's got some secondary sources in John Lennox, but those secondary sources he used will have the primary sources in. So can I just read the second bit as well? The second bit is the Huxley-Wilberforce debate about Darwin. And I'll just read this, Jason.
Yeah, go on, mate.
It says...
is it page 27?
It's page 26, yes, 26, yeah. It says...
Just for folk who don't know, we're looking at J.C. Lennox, God's Undertaker, Science-Bury God, published by Lyons. We're looking at the book and discussing some of its contents. Go on,
yeah. So this is the Huxley-Wilberforce debate. This is used again, Jason, as a false assumption that there's conflict between faith and science. This is what's used as well. Nor, in fact, does that other frequently cited incident, the debate on the 30th of June 1860 at the British Association for the Advancement of Science, held in Oxford's Natural History Museum, which took place between T.H. Huxley, Darwin's bulldog, and Bishop Samuel Wilberforce, Soapy Sam. The debate was occasioned by a lecture developed by John Draper on Darwin's theory of evolution, The Origin of Species having been published several months earlier. This encounter is often portrayed as a simple clash between science and religion, where the competent scientist convincingly triumphed over the ignorant churchman. Yet historians of science have shown that this account is also very far from the truth. In the first place, Wilberforce was no ignoramus. A month after the historic meeting in question, he published a 50-page review of Darwin's work in the Quarterly Review, which Darwin regarded as uncommonly clever. It picks out with skill all the most conjectural parts and brings forward well all the difficulties. It quizzes me most splendidly. Secondly, Wilberforce was no obscurantist. He was determined that the debate should not be between science and religion, but a scientific debate, scientist versus scientist on scientific grounds, an intention which figures significantly in his summary of the review. We have objected to the views with which we are dealing solely on scientific grounds. We have done so from the fixed conviction that it is thus that the truth or falsehood of such arguments should be tried. We have no sympathy with those who object to any facts or alleged facts in nature, or to any inference logically deduced from them, because they believe them to contradict what it appears to them is taught by revelation. So they have a debate. It's getting a bit dry. They have a debate, this Huxley and Wilberforce. So, as to the contemporary accounts of the debate, right? So basically, I put forward that this Bishop Wilberforce was a laughing stock, Jason.
Yeah.
That he didn't understand Darwin, and he was a bit ignorant. In fact, he was a bit scientist himself, and he was an academic. So these are historical primary accounts to the real debate. As to contemporary accounts of the debate, John Brooke points out that initially the event seemed to cause little or no stir. It is a significant fact that the famous clash between Huxley and the bishop was not reported by a single London newspaper at the time, so it's not as big as these atheists make out.
Yeah. Can I just come in there just to help, like, just for those who are listening in. Basically, what Mark's saying is this debate between Bishop Wilberforce and Huxley in 1860 was a landmark debate that secularists and evolutionists and atheists used, especially in the modern period especially in the from the end of the Victorian period right up into the modern 20th century. and use this as an argument, saying the church is just anti-intellectual, behind the times, and can't deal with science, and manufactured that Huxley had won this debate, when in reality it wasn't the case, and that Mark's explaining the details of this.
Yeah. So indeed, there are no official records of the meeting, and most of the reports come from Huxley's friends. Huxley himself wrote that there was a inextinguishable laughter among the people at his wit, and I believe that I was the most popular man in Oxford for a full 4 and 20 hours afterwards. However, the evidence is that the debate was far from one-sided. One newspaper later recorded that one previous convert to Darwin's theory was deconverted as he witnessed the debate. The botanist Joseph Hooker grumbled that Huxley didn't put the matter in a form or way that carried the audience, so he had to do it himself. Wilberforce wrote 3 days later to the archaeologist Charles Taylor, "I think I thoroughly beat him." Another report gives the impression that the honours were about even, seeing that Huxley and Wilberforce have each found 4 men worthy of their steel. Frank James, historian at the Royal Institute in London, makes the suggestion that the widespread impression that Huxley was victorious may well have arisen because Wilberforce was not well liked, a fact that is missing from most of the accounts. Had Wilberforce not been so unpopular in Oxford, he would have carried the day and not Huxley. Shades of Galileo. On careful analysis, then, 2 of the main props commonly used to support the conflict thesis crumble. Indeed, researchers undermined that thesis to such an extent that historian of science Colin Russell can come to the following general conclusion. The common belief that the actual relation between religion and science over the last few centuries have been marked by deep and enduring hostility is not only historically inaccurate, but actually a caricature so grotesque that what needs to be explained is how it could possibly have achieved any degree of respectability. It is clear, therefore, that powerful forces must have been at play. In order to account for the depth to which the conflict myth has become embedded in the popular mind, and indeed there were, as in the case of Galileo, the real issue at stake was not simply a question of the intellectual merits of a scientific theory. Once more, institutional power played a key role. Huxley was on a crusade to ensure the supremacy of the emerging new class of professional scientists against the privileged position of the clerics, however intellectually gifted. He wanted to make sure that it was the scientists who wielded the levers of power. The legend of a conquered bishop slain by a professional scientist suited that crusade, and it was exploited to the full. However, it is apparent that even more was involved. A central element in Huxley's crusade is highlighted by Michael Poole. He writes, "In this struggle, the concept of nature was spelt with a capital N. Huxley vested Dame Nature, as he called her, with attributes ascribed to God." I don't know what that's talking about there. Conclusion is, thus a mythical conflict was, and still often is, hyped up and shamelessly used as a weapon in another battle. The real one this time, that is, that between naturalism and theism. You still there, Jay?
Yeah.
So basically, what we've looked at is the two false conflicts put forward historically, used as that there's a conflict between science and faith, and those are the Galileo episode and the Huxley episode. But you just have to go back to primary sources. Is that right, Jason?
Yeah. Definitely.
And check it yourself. It's all there to check and get a balanced view of what really happened. But he goes on, the real debate is this, Jason, is the real debate is between 2 worldviews, isn't it? When you talk about atheism, and theism or Christianity. or what other faith. And it's simply this, the worldview of atheism is naturalism. That's a worldview. And naturalism basically is all we have is matter. Matter exists. So there's no supernatural at all. It's just matter. And obviously the Christian worldview is there's the supernatural. You know, matter is not all there is. You know, God created matter. So it's about two worldviews. One where everything's explained by naturalism, and the other by a belief in a supernatural, you know, supreme being. Do you know anything else about naturalism, Jay?
Page 29. For the sake of clarity, we note that naturalism is related to, but not identical with, materialism, although they are sometimes very hard to tell apart. The Oxford Companion to Philosophy says that the complexity of the concept of matter has meant that the various materialist philosophies have tended to substitute for matter some notion like whatever it is that can be studied by the methods of natural science, thus turning materialism into